I often tell people over 30 this. In today's world, there's no such thing as a safe path anymore. Only a proactive one. Sounds extreme, right? But think about it. A few decades ago, having a stable job meant security. You worked hard, stayed honest, and got your paycheck at the end of the month. But now, everything's changed. AI doesn't sleep, doesn't ask for overtime, doesn't get tired, and it's quietly taking over jobs we once thought were untouchable. Accountants, translators, even teachers and journalists are all standing in front of a relentless wave of automation. I have a friend who worked at the same company for over 15 years. He believed, if I stay loyal, they'll keep me. Then one morning, he got an email. Company restructuring. Just like that, he was out. He packed his things in a cardboard box and walked home with one question in his mind. What now? It wasn't his fault. It's the way we were raised, to believe that being safe was the right way to live. But safety only exists when the world stands still. And the world today, it's moving. Fast. Picture this. If your life were a ship, are you the captain or just a passenger? Because if you're not steering, someone else is. And trust me, they're not heading where you want to go. I'm not saying everyone should quit their job or start a business, but at least start thinking like someone in control. Learn a new skill. Use technology as a tool, not as a distraction. Because in this era, those who don't adapt won't just fall behind. They'll be replaced. We can't choose the current of the times, but we can choose how we swim in it. A lot of people think they need motivation before they can start changing. But the truth is, it's the other way around. Motivation doesn't come before action. Action creates motivation. I've worked with hundreds of people in their 40s and 50s, people who thought it was too late to start over. And you know what they all had in common? They were waiting for the right time. I'll start when my kids are older. I'll try when I've saved more money. But that perfect time never came. Life always gives you reasons to delay, and time never waits. There was a student of mine in Toronto, 48 years old, who'd been a cashier for 20 years. One day, she said to me, I don't want to live like this forever, but I don't know where to start. I told her, start where you are. And she did. She spent just 30 minutes a day learning online design. 3 months later, she got her first order, a small poster design worth $40. But I'll never forget the look in her eyes that day. It wasn't about the money. It was about hope. The realization that she could still change. Sometimes, the smallest step becomes the biggest turning point. You don't need to know everything. You just need to begin. Because once you move, confidence follows. Once you act, you learn. Once you commit, doors open. Remember, motivation isn't a fire that burns forever. It needs fuel, and that fuel is action. So if you're tired, lost, or unsure today, just do one small thing. Write down a goal, read one page, learn one new skill. Anything that moves you forward, even an inch. Because action is the only antidote to fear and procrastination. And when you take action, you don't just change your results, you change yourself. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for life to happen, but makes life happen. Sometimes we wait for a miracle, a sign, an opportunity, or someone who'll come and change our lives. But you know what? The miracle doesn't come from outside. The miracle is you. I used to believe that if I just met the right person or got the right opportunity, everything would change. But as I grew older, I realized, no one's coming to save us. Everyone's fighting their own battles. And if you don't get up on your own, you'll stay there, waiting for a helping hand that will never come. I remember once during a workshop in Ottawa, a man in his 50s stood up and asked me, "Do you think it's too late for me to change? I've been unemployed for almost a year, and it feels like nobody wants to hire someone like me anymore." I looked at him and said, "No one can stop you unless you believe your chances are over." A month later, he texted me. He had started learning how to write content for small businesses. 3 months after that, he landed his first project. Just a few $100s, Maury, but he said, "I feel alive again." No one gave him that opportunity. He created it himself. Sometimes, a miracle isn't about erasing fear. It's about moving forward despite the fear. God, the universe, call it whatever you want, has already given you 2 gifts, time and intelligence. What you do with them is entirely your choice. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you'll never begin, because perfection doesn't exist. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to keep moving forward. And remember, if you don't change your direction, you'll keep heading toward where you're already going, even if it's not where you want to end up. So stop waiting for a miracle. Be the miracle, because no one else can rewrite your story except you. Here's what I want you to remember. Now, every failure is valuable data. It doesn't define who you are. It simply shows what didn't work. Most people fear failure because they think it's the end. But in every success story I've ever seen, failure was the beginning. Nobody grows from success. They grow from falling down and standing back up. I once coached a woman named Nora from Calgary. She started a small online craft business, but after 3 months she hadn't sold a single item. She wanted to quit. I asked her, "What have you learned in these 3 months?" She said, "I learned that I post at the wrong times, and my products aren't unique enough." I smiled and said, "Then you've already gained valuable data." The next month, she changed her strategy and made her first sale. Now her small brand has customers across 3 provinces. See? Failure isn't the end. It's life giving you honest feedback. If you've never failed, it means you've never stepped outside your comfort zone. And ironically, the comfort zone is the most dangerous place, because it convinces you you're safe while time quietly slips away. Science shows that the human brain learns fastest through mistakes. Every time you fail, your neurons form new connections to prevent repeating that mistake. Failure doesn't destroy you. It rewires you to become stronger. I know failure hurts. It makes you doubt yourself and want to hide. But look at the people you admire. They're not the ones who never fell. They're the ones who fell more times than you can imagine, but always got back up. Failure isn't scary. What's scary is failing and learning nothing from it. So treat every fall as a lesson. And the pain you feel is just the tuition fee. Because when you stop fearing failure, success starts moving toward you. You know, energy, not time, is the real currency of success. Everyone has the same 24 hours, but it's your energy that decides what you can do with them. I've met many people who say, "I don't have time to change." But when I dig deeper, they spend hours scrolling online, consuming negativity, or worrying about things they can't control. They don't lack time. They lack energy. And energy doesn't just come from the body, it comes from the mind and emotions. When you live in anxiety, fear, or regret, you leak your life force. But when you live with purpose, taking small steps each day, your energy flows naturally, pushing you forward. I remember a student named Lisa from Toronto, 42 years old, working full-time and raising 2 kids. She was exhausted and said she had no motivation left. I asked her, "What's the first thing you do every morning?" She said, "I check my phone, messages, and work emails." I smiled and told her, "That's exactly why you're drained. You start your day reacting, not creating." By simply waking up 20 minutes earlier and writing down 3 things she was grateful for each morning, her energy shifted completely. She wasn't exhausted anymore. She was driven. You see, Energy is a reflection of how you choose to live each day. Your food, your sleep, your thoughts, your conversations. They all shape your energy. Choose people who make you feel stronger. Choose work that excites you. Choose thoughts that make you grateful, not bitter. Being 30, 40, or 50 isn't the end. It's a gold mine of experience. When you learn to manage your energy, you realize you can still start over, stronger, wiser, and more alive. Because energy is your most valuable capital. And when you invest it in the right places, it pays you back with a life full of vitality and purpose. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep ending up in the same loop, wanting change but always going back to where I was? The truth is simple, but painful, because you haven't really decided. I'm not talking about thinking about a decision or intending to do something. I'm talking about a real decision, the kind that leaves you no way back, the kind that makes you willing to give up comfort for a better future. After years of coaching hundreds of adults in Canada, I've realized something. Most people don't lack ability. They lack commitment. They know they need to change. They know their job isn't fulfilling anymore. They know that relationship is hurting them. They know they've abandoned their dreams. But they still stay because they've kept a safe exit open. I remember a man named Michael, 37, an engineer at a big corporation. He told me, "I want to start my own company, but I'm afraid to fail." I asked, "Do you really want it?" He stayed silent. Then I said, "If you just want to try, you'll never do it. But if you decide, you'll find a way to make it happen." 2 years later, Michael came back. He said, "I lost everything in my first year, but now I have my own company, my freedom, and a life I actually chose." You see, everything begins the moment you truly decide, not when you know enough, not when you feel ready, but when you tell yourself, "I'm not going back." Decision is the line between those who talk and those who act. When you decide with your whole heart, energy appears. Opportunities appear. Even help appears from places you never expected. But if you haven't decided yet, no amount of books, videos, or advice will move you forward. So today, I want to ask you one simple question. Have you truly decided to live the life you want?